Statement of Ronald Lee Diggson regarding window blinds. Statement reviewed by Jamie Morgan, December 13th, 2025. Statement begins. Contrary to popular belief, I don't inherently mistrust all technology. That doesn't mean that I don't mistrust certain technologies. I do, but they have to prove themselves untrustworthy first. There is a reason that you received this letter as a letter on physical paper and not as an email. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Obviously, I'm not going to use my real name here, but I am most known as Ronald Lee Diggson. You may recognize that name from some social medias, most notably TikTok and Facebook. I have been called many names, some aliases, not that I would share with you. I know all too well what your kind do with people's information. Others insults, others still praise. I have been called a conspiracy theorist, I have been called a martyr, I have been called insane, I have been called a hero. Doing what I do inherently means that I accept a lot of risk. I have told the masses plenty of information that plenty of very powerful people do not want spread around. Because of my line of work, I genuinely don't remember the last time that I had a permanent residence. I'm sure I probably did at some point in my life, but I certainly don't remember it. My parents had a similar job to mine, you see. Growing up, we were always moving around, staying places just long enough for my parents to tell me exactly where I should and should not be looking for friends. Eventually, the should-nots began to outnumber the shoulds. It was fine, having more alone time meant that I had more time to work with my parents. I had all about their research and their exploits. I even got to help with the board. But one day they would come home to wherever we were staying, covered in dirt, and explain that they had been looking for the mole people, and that they must have figured out that we were onto them and moved, or come back late in the night, ranting about how they were this close, and how they would get 'em next time. I suppose I have my parents to thank for a lot in my life right now. They opened my eyes to this world, but they also showed me exactly what not to do. I trade in truths. They traded in fancy lies meant to scare children. That's out of character for me. What did you do to me? Why is this about me? Our family unit exploded almost as soon as I turned 18. One of the many lessons that my parents taught me was that it was better to work alone in our field. The first time they ever took me with them to investigate whatever cryptid or cult case or what have you they were looking for was on my 18th birthday. This time we were looking for some old ghost soldiers that had supposedly haunted an old World War II battlefield. We drove up in our station wagon full of ghost hunting gear and started to unload and suit up. My parents really spared no expense when buying me all of the gear. Hell, I basically had a proton pack strapped to my back. And boy, oh boy, was it heavy. My backpack must have weighed at least 60 pounds, and you bet that it slowed me down. My parents, however, did not have a 60-pound weight strapped to their backs. Once we were all geared up, we began to walk onto the actual battlefields. It wasn't until after one went off that I discovered that my dad did not do his research properly, and did not know about the risk of unexploded landmines in the area. I suppose you could even call me lucky for not being as fast as my parents, but I think that they were the lucky ones. They both died immediately. They didn't have to deal with it. No! I'm not talking about them. Not now. Not ever! Why can't I erase it? Why can't I erase it? I can mostly skip over the following years. With my parents gone, I had complete freedom to do what I wanted, so I started posting. I posted about the real issues, not whatever my parents thought was important. I believe my first video was about global warming, warning people that it was just the government throwing up smoke and mirrors to make us look away from what they were actually doing, implementing 5G to better control the birds. I believe that. As of today, that video has 5 views? Something like that. I can send you the lifestyle of my parents, except I moved locations every couple of days instead of every month. Same schedule every time. Get to a new location, start research for a new video, write, record and edit the video, then stop for food on the way out of town. That stopped working so well when I caught the attention of some people who really don't want people to know about the things I was discussing. Not just millionaires, but billionaires as well now had some incentive to stop me from bringing to light their secrets. The added interest in me meant that I had to keep a bit of a low profile. It was about this time that I realized Gmail was actually not sending my messages to the recipients, but to the CEO's inbox, where a bot would then copy the message and pass it along to its original recipient. If you're wondering why this came as a letter. So, past couple of years, I've had to learn to move more discreetly. I try to avoid open areas, empty areas, areas with windows, that sort of thing. I try to avoid leaving a paper trail. I switch cars every month or so, cash only. On the rare occasion that I'm staying anywhere other than my car, I don't walk around, I crawl. That's why I was delighted to see that my new place had a set of thick blinds on every window. I don't want it anymore. Please, just let me go. The blinds worked great. It was the first time that I had been able to actually live some semblance of a normal life. I had never had this growing up. I never got to get up from bed and walk to the kitchen to prepare myself breakfast. I never got to take a bath before bed. It was peaceful. But then they found me. The birds, the drones, the henchmen, they all knew where I was hiding. I never looked outside though. I just heard them. Saw their headlights on the blinds as they pulled into the driveway. Saw their shadows on the blinds as they flew by. Heard their song through the blinds as they sat on what I presumed to be a branch outside. What type of fool would I be if I looked? Seen one, that's for sure. They know where I am, but they don't know anything else about me. Why would I look and incur unnecessary risk? But just a peek, a single peek, to learn more about them, to figure out exactly who wants me found and or dead. No, better not to look. Privacy and anonymity is important among these crowds. Plus, they aren't necessarily sure that I'm actually living here. Otherwise, they would have just broken down the door. But just a peek. Just a peek. Just a peek. I can't stop writing. I can't stop writing. Why can't I stop writing? What is happening to me? The blinds do not want me hidden. That is not their true goal. No, their true goal is something different. Sure, they hide me plenty well, but they also speak to me, try to convince me to take just a peek. I heard about you guys at some point. That much I'm sure of. I can't for the life of me remember where, though. I know what you do with my information. You take it, you read it, then you cattle to your corporate power structure on me. You tell them my name, my address, any information you can on me, and you sell it to the highest bidder. Or, worse yet, your CEO is someone I did a video on, someone who wants me gone. So you tell them and then my story ends. I'm using a fake name here, not because I'm more recognizable that way, but because I do not trust you with my information. If you need to contact me, don't. Why? These past weeks or months or years spent in a constant panic of who's at the door now have been a living hell for me. I figured out where I heard of you. Not from my career, but from the blinds. They whispered it into my mind. I knew something felt off. I should have trusted my instincts. I should wrap up here. There is only so much stalling a man can do before sending a letter. You can be sure as hell I'm gonna have a perfect signature. Signed, Ronald Lee Diggson. Statement ends. Notes. Right. I sent someone to check the return address provided on the letter. True to his word, Mr. Diggson does not want anyone finding him. Instead of his residence, my researcher found an apartment building. One thing that Mr. Diggson did not account for, however, was that I was able to know that he has a pal who ferries his mail to and fro from his apartment to wherever Mr. Diggson is living. Fortunately, it was not a long drive from there to the address that Mr. Diggson was staying at with the blinds. When my researcher arrived, he saw the emaciated figure of Mr. Diggson staring out the window intently. No blinds in sight. I hope that he can get medication for his vivid hallucinations soon. Recording